Good evening. It is a Super Bowl Sunday, apparently, but I'm sure the people who would probably be interested in watching our video may or may not be interested in watching football. I guess it kind of depends.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Or like maybe you'd have it on, but you'd also be looking at Instagram, and then you'd see that Steve and Melissa are live, and you'd be like, oh, of course I'm going to watch their video.
So that's a double mind, though. You'd be better off.
Yes, that's true. So today, what are we talking about? We have a thing we're doing a week from Thursday, so on 2/22, and it's a relationship class. We did one of these back in, I think, was it November? Something like that, and it was really fun. The first hour, we talked about relationship principles. We had a huge list of things to talk about that night and only got into like half of it. So tonight, we're going to be getting into the other half, which is 7 dysfunctional relationship patterns that you will recognize when you hear them, and how to recognize them, how to pay attention when they're active, and what to do to change them if they're happening in your relationship. And then the second half of the class will be group coaching. So if you and your partner come to the class and have stuff that you're working through, things you want to find solutions in communication, that's what that class is going to be about. And so we invite you to join us. It will be very fun.
So we're not doing that tonight?
No.
Okay. Maybe I misheard. Yeah. I think maybe you said tonight we're going to be getting into the other half, but that's actually...
Oh, yeah, that night.
Or are we? Okay.
Sorry. No, that night. Yeah,
tonight we're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing on that night, which
yes.
is one of the really important things in relationships is clarity of communication. Yeah, so we're going to be covering the other half, right? Or the other portion of the things that we didn't get to because we go down tributaries. Basically,
yeah, the first relationship class we did, we had 2 lists of things to talk about. Because we talked so much about the first list, we're talking about the second list. Yeah. On the relationship class we're doing next week.
Great.
Is that clear?
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Well, tonight we're talking about the big game. And of course, the big game isn't the football on TV. It is the biggest game that people play in life. And that is the blame game. That is looking at outside sources as the cause of your problems, as your bad feelings. If it weren't for my partner, if it weren't for my parents, if it wasn't for my job, if it wasn't for fill in the blank, if it wasn't for this, then I would be happy, then I would be okay, then my life would be good. And I think that that's one of the biggest games that we play with ourselves, and one of the ones that keeps us the most stuck when we are in this position where we feel like a victim. We blame the outside world, we blame the things around us for our situation, rather than looking at how I am engaging with those things, with my past, with my present, with my story, that is making or breaking my internal experience of my life. And so that's, something we really do get into a lot in awareness school. It's broken down into 7 steps, and we kind of go into it in detail. But tonight we kind of want to just do an overview of that.
Mm-hmm. So relationship coaching, we call it that, or relationship class. That's just something that we call it to trick you into getting into it, right? So that you will then do work on yourself. It's also actually about relationships, because ultimately the relationships are about you. But really, if things are chronically not going well in your relationship, people who come to the conclusion that the problem is them, one way or another, right, tend to be the people that create the changes that they want to create. Sometimes those changes are changes within the relationship. Sometimes those changes are changes to the fact that they are in that relationship. It's just one of those things that the people that are in the relationship and they have a sincerely held belief that their partner is the problem. Not that there's things that their partner does that could be done differently, but they have a really super negative experience that they associate with the relationship that they then blame on the partner. People who do that sequence of things tend to remain very unhappy for a very long period of time. They tend to not do anything to improve their situation, and they tend secretly and more or less unconsciously to be complicit in those things about which they complain and over which they suffer. Just kind of putting it out there. A lot of people, in my experience, have a problem realizing certain things that would set them free and make them happy and allow them to actually create the kind of experiences they want to create in their life. And it's connected in some way to certain misconceptions about fault and blame, and is it my fault or your fault? It's someone's fault. Whose is it? It has to be somebody's fault. I don't want it to be my fault. And if it's not my fault, then it has to be your fault. See, there's all these assumptions, and all of them kind of become such givens that they operate kind of in the background or in the basement of my mind. I don't think those things. Those things are already thought. I think from those things. Those are the foundations upon which I build my moment-to-moment thinking. You know, it's kind of like, and if you think about your grandmother's cooking, it's like, what ingredients did your grandmother use? Like, did your grandmother use specific whole food ingredients that she combined, or were your grandmother's ingredients essentially a box of this and a box of that and a box of, things that were already largely pre-prepared that were then heated and mixed together? And a lot of people's thinking is that way. It's not raw from the beginning. They do the whole process. They take 3 or 4 assumptions and they draw all of their thinking from those basic assumptions, and never really examine those assumptions to see whether they're healthy, to see whether they're helpful. And so a lot of people have this thing where they're averse to considering the possibility that they are in some way playing a role in creating a dynamic or an experience that they don't like, because they think every unit of responsibility that they discover they have for their experience is a unit. It's like a federal charge that is taken off of their partner. And think about this. This is if the people are afflicted by this, right? I am really reluctant to even look into that corner. Some people get really uncomfortable with me because I talk about personal responsibility stuff. And something inside them goes, wait a minute. I don't want to... They're not afraid of what I'm saying. They're afraid of their own concluding that what I am saying is true. That's a distinction that's worth making too. They don't care. What I'm saying is not scary to them. What they're afraid of is the realization that what I'm saying might apply to their situation. Why are they afraid of that? Why are they afraid of being responsible for what's going on? Because if they're responsible for it, their partner's off the hook in their mind. That's how they think about it. And they're so committed to the idea that their partner is to blame for this stuff that it's very disconcerting to them, this idea. And I think a lot of it honestly goes back to like preschool, or if you had siblings growing up, maybe even preschool. But there were these different things like playing the blame game, which you mentioned, right? People tend to process that as an accusation that you're engaging in an interpersonal no-no. You shouldn't play the blame game. Now, Susie, don't play the blame game. Don't blame your brother for that thing. And what's the problem there? The problem there isn't that blaming your brother makes you miserable. The problem is that if you blame your brother, that the parental figure will come in and say, now you're doing something called playing the blame game, and that's not good. And so it's like, well, I really want to do it, but I don't want to get accused of doing it. You know what I'm saying? So playing the blame game is kind of like, robbing the bank. It's like, it's not that robbing the bank is going to make me miserable. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to get shot. I don't want to get in trouble. And so it's like something I'd like to do, but I might get in trouble for it. And so I don't want to do it because I might get in trouble. That's not how this is. This playing the blame game stuff makes you miserable. It creates sort of an internal environment that is characterized by an assumption of disempowerment that then causes you to be extremely unhappy. It's not something that's fun to do, but that other people get mad at you for doing. It's not something that's fun to do, but that you might get in trouble for doing. It's not something that's fun or rewarding to do or nice to do, but you end up getting accused by other people, or you end up... That's not the case. It is a sick thing. It's a sadistic thing to do to yourself. And it's something that you really don't want to continue doing. And so kind of like recalibrating your understanding of what it is to blame other people, especially your partner, for things that you're not happy about. There's this thing where it's like, okay, so I've got a negative experience, and then I attribute that negative experience to something outside myself, and then I blame my partner for that condition. So negative experience, I then got to find something that I can attribute that negative experience to, something to do with the kitchen and it's not clean, something to do with a gift that wasn't given, so, you know what I'm saying, a birthday wasn't remembered, something like that. So something happened, then I'm going to blame my partner for that thing. And it starts off as, well, okay, I've got a bad feeling already. Let me find something to which I can apply that bad feeling to explain to myself why it's there, so I then have an excuse to express that bad feeling as a grievance and as a complaint. This then becomes, though, a strategy for creating additional bad feelings in the future. That's something to kind of watch for in your life, right? You start off with kind of a crap... If you're honest with yourself, you'll probably notice that this is true. Sometimes you're just in a crappy mood, and you just kind of look around for something outside yourself that the crappy feeling was pre-existing. It was like a pre-existing condition, right? I already had it. But then I look around and I say, oh, look, they forgot to pick up their toys. Oh, look, he said he was going to take out the trash and he didn't. Oh, look, she said that she was going to do the dishes and she didn't, or she said whatever. And then now I've got an outlet. Now this feeling can find expression in my complaints and grievances about that thing. If you're doing that, that's not legitimate and is making yourself miserable, and it is reinforcing in your mind a delusion about what the nature and cause of your unpleasant experiences are. You want to start to notice that. Now notice, we haven't done any, this is relationship coaching, but we haven't done anything with your partner. We haven't done anything with how you communicate with your partner at all. We have started to notice things that you yourself are doing. And we're starting to loosen this misunderstanding that a lot of people have about what the nature and the cause of their experience in a given moment in time is. The sequence, just sorry to belabor it, but it's worth it. I start off with a bad feeling. We'll talk about maybe why that happens maybe later. I start off with a bad feeling. I look for something outside that I can be upset about, so that this internal bad feeling can be expressed. I have an excuse to express this bad feeling. Don't you want to just kind of chew somebody out when you're in a bad feeling? I mean, you want to just let them have it. Do you know what I'm saying? And then, so I start off with a bad feeling. I then find a condition outside that I can attribute the bad feeling to. And then I find a person outside that I can blame that condition on, right? Watch that sequence and just observe that. And then I say to myself, why do I have relationship problems? I need to work on communication. It's like, no, I use my relationship. In many cases, I use my relationship as an outlet for expressing bad feelings that existed before the condition in the relationship that I'm blaming the bad feelings on was ever even noticed by me in the first place. So if that's going on, there's no amount of communication work that's going to help you. You've got to notice that you're using the people in your life and the circumstances in your life illegitimately, probably without even knowing it. Mm-hmm. And if that's an uncomfortable thing, if that's true for you, right, which is an assumption, if it's true for you, and if it's uncomfortable for you to hear that description, right? Now I'm assuming that it's true for you. If it's true for you, and if it being true for you it's also uncomfortable for you to hear an accurate description of what you're doing, that's another liability that we want to look at. Wow, it's uncomfortable for me to hear accurate descriptions of what I do in my relationship. That's a liability. That's something we can work on. That's something we're going getting rid of. Yeah,
and the more that you kind of just play with the idea. It's like, it's different than, fine, it's all my fault and it's all coming from me. And, because it's easy to take that attitude where, when you start to reflect, because it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable at first. And it's almost easier to hide in the, woe is me, hands up, I'm the one to blame. And then you just become a victim of this idea called, looking at outside sources as the cause of my problem is bad or wrong, rather than just watching the results of the experience that you're creating when you play either game. When I play the woe is me game, when I play the blame game, and you just start watching where it's coming from and where you're directing it. Because that's the thing, is you're always directing emotions and thoughts in different directions. And our whole thing is awareness. Our whole thing is paying more attention to where it's coming from, where it bubbles up, where you tend to flow it. Is it working for you? Are you consistently getting the results in your life that you like, that feel good? Are you paying attention and connecting these dots between the communication you have with your partner and how things go down, and whether or not you have a fight, or whether or not you have a really nice time, or whether or not it's, you're satisfied with the outcomes that you're getting. And the more that you can see, what's bubbling up within me, where I'm directing it, because whether or not you say these things out loud, and this is like a huge thing, it doesn't matter whether or not you speak the criticisms and the blame. It's all about what you feel, because your partner, your kids, your external world is responding to the way that you feel. And we really we want to get you feeling good more of the time. That's the whole game. That is the whole point of all of this, is learning how to feel better more of the time, to understand how to, interact and communicate and play the game of life in a way that feels really good and really fun. But we have got so much unconscious crap and assumptions and beliefs that have come from early life experiences, negative life experiences, traumatic life experiences that cause us to have a lot of stuff that we don't know what to do with. And so the more that you can get clear within yourself and notice when it's bubbling up in a way that it spills over onto all of the people around you, and you just feel like if it weren't for them, if it weren't for this, if it wasn't for this thing that happened, there is power in looking at what's happened to you and being willing to, look at it in a different way rather than allowing it to be this burden and this reason that you can't have fun or you can't enjoy life or you have problems with men or women or whatever.
Yeah. I think one of the here's like a quick and dirty tip, is that if you
like the description,
it's just a thing people say, right? It's quick and simple. It's not particularly dirty, I guess. If you're involved in kind of tit for tat retaliations, right? Now again, go back to playing the blame game thing. If the retaliations and tit for tat is something that you're not supposed to do, preschooler, right? Getting in trouble for doing something that was satisfying, but that is technically an interpersonal social no-no. That's not how to think about it. The point is it distracts you from something more productive, more fulfilling. It's not that you owe the other person to not retaliate. It's not that, I feel bad now because you did that and then I did retaliate. No, that's a waste of time. It's stupid. It's self-indulgent. It's crap. It's garbage. Stop feeling guilty. Stop feeling guilty. Stop apologizing. All this just stupid crap. When you're apologizing, you're telling them, I'm going to do it again. And it's notice the tit for tat stuff. Just notice when it happens. Notice the inclination just to kind of come back at it, right? On the other hand, notice how much energy you expend, you hemorrhage, you waste, you squander, right? In attempting to make up for things, to apologize for things. There's kind of two sides of the same coin, right? I'm looking for revenge, or I'm looking for you said this, and I go, oh yeah, and I kind of, you know what I mean? Or you were, I don't know, you said something snarky now, and so I'm waiting for an opportunity to say something snarky about what you did. That's one nasty thing. The other thing is if you observe yourself, maybe being a little short with your partner, and then you waste 3 hours, 3 days, whatever, feeling terribly guilty about it. Oh, I raised my voice to my children, right? I mean, you can say, you know what, I shouldn't have raised my voice to you. I'm sorry about that. There's nothing wrong with, at an interpersonal level, saying, I think maybe I was a little harsh in that conversation, and I don't know why, but sorry about it, and I'm going to try not to do it again. That's okay. So when I say don't apologize, I'm not talking about not doing that. That's perfectly fine. I'm talking about that excessive internal guilt, right? That at some level, secretly, you want your partner to see you engaging in so that they will come and console you. Is my guilt, is my contrition, right? Is my self-castigation, is my shame an advertisement saying consolation wanted, saying reassurance wanted? If that's true, that's corrupt. That's a disgusting thing. And I want to get that out of my system. I feel so bad. And I go around feeling so bad, and part of me is like this. Like a little child that cries and kind of peeks over to see if the parents notice. Are they notice? Are they reading their newspaper, or do they see how bad I'm feeling? Are they going to kind of come console me? Don't waste your time on those things. Just notice what's going on. Stop trying to get even and stop trying to make up for things that you think you've done wrong. Haven't you noticed how this leads nowhere? Just start observing what's happening. Oh, isn't that interesting? I was feeling irritable, and I kind of unconsciously and automatically looked around for something. And when I found something that was amiss, the child left a dish out. My husband left his laundry on the floor. My wife didn't do the thing that she said she was going to do, right? Whatever. There was a part of me inside that said, aha, right? Almost like if you're at the store looking for an item, you're looking for a Christmas present for a person, or you're looking for something you want that's really hard to find, a clothing item or a specialty something, and you don't see it. Ooh, I see it. Ah, it's exciting. Beyond it, there's a thrill. There is a sensation of a match. When I find something out here that'll be a grievance, that'll give me an outlet for the bad feeling. When you see all that going on, don't feel bad. Don't be horrified. Don't try to prevent yourself from carrying on with it. Just observe the process and go, isn't that interesting? That's what I'm doing. Gosh, because what was I doing? What do I normally do? I normally persist in this just dogged delusion that says, I'm just trying to do everything just fine. But my children, but my husband, but my wife, but my girlfriend, they just always, they just never, they just don't, all this different crap. But if I can actually begin to witness myself as I do these things, gather data about myself, become conscious of it, and attempt to blame myself or someone else, right? And attempt to control, I mean by force, like, I have to not explode. right? Or I have to be nice, or I have to do, all of those things are attempts to escape self-observation, an attempt to set my partner right, an attempt to forcibly, not to have a conversation with my partner about how it might be nice to live, right? But that, that kind of neurotic, impulsive, like when you feel the urge, I feel the urge to say something, I'm escaping awareness of myself. There you go. How often do you find fault with your environment? How often do you find fault with your partner? How often do you find fault with them in order to escape awareness of yourself? Busyness. I mean, if you're really honest with yourself, you spend a lot of time. Most of your griping is not, and it's not that you don't have things to gripe about. Most of your griping at root is about a desperate attempt to escape awareness of yourself. And isn't it actually a relief when I find, I can't face myself. I can't acknowledge the reality of what's going on inside my own head. I can't realize that I carry around all these nasty feelings inside before anything goes wrong or anyone does anything wrong. I can't do that now. I got to talk to Melissa about where she puts the keys on the door hanger, because she puts them up, she puts them down low, she's supposed to put them up high. Isn't there secret relief? You know what I'm saying? Isn't there secret relief?
Course, yes.
Oh, and I can then what? Kick it down the line. I can kick confronting myself down the line, because first I got to confront you, and I got to confront the dog, and I have to confront the child, and I have to confront my mother, and I have to do all this stuff, and I got to feel bad about myself, and I got to feel aggrieved with them, and I got to feel so guilty about having aggrieved them over here. Oh, I didn't do enough for them. I didn't please them. They didn't please me. I've got all these things that I have to attend to before I have to face myself. And so facing myself just gets push far away. Now, the longer I put it off, the scarier it gets, and the more incentive I have to find other things out here to do before. It's like if you've got a paper you got to write for school or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or if we've got to write a course, or make a course or something like that. All of a sudden, there's this eagerness inside to attend to all these things on the outside. And so really, kind of the foundation of effective relationship work is recognizing that the problems that exist in your relationship are not organic problems most of the time. They are synthetic problems. They are relationship false flags that have been created to serve a certain purpose, because the people who are in the relationship cannot handle peace, and they cannot handle harmony, because peace and harmony is quiet and slow and conducive to self-facing. Because if I don't have a problem with you, I have to at some point notice and start to do something about the problems that I have with myself. And so many people, they think that they want peace and harmony, but they absolutely cannot stand it, because when things get harmonious between me and you, I start to notice how much is wrong with me, how much is amiss with me, how much unhappiness exists independently of what may be going wrong between me and my partner. And that is an absolute dread-inducing realization for many people. And we'll talk about why it's dread-inducing in a second. It is a fixable thing. And so people will come to me and they'll say, help me be harmonious with my partner, help me get along with my partner. I said, listen, we can't even begin to attempt to create harmony between you and your wife, because you are so corrupt right now. You not only don't really want it, you would be completely terrified if you had it. Because if you couldn't blame her for the stress in your life, you'd have to acknowledge that the stress is coming from you. And you'd have to face things about what's wrong with you, right? And so the real problem is that the people in the relationship are complicit in the disharmony, not because they're accidentally creating it. They have a vested interest in creating it, maintaining it, perpetuating it, exacerbating it, because it is helping them to avoid doing something they're afraid of doing. And so I'm going to really tell you, well, the problem is her love language is touch, and your love language is acts of service. And see, if you'll just recognize that, that's a very useful thing for a person who is in the market for peace and harmony to know, so that they can then have a practical way of creating peace and harmony. But if you've got something inside you that's terrified of peace and harmony, because that stillness is conducive to self-realization, which is horrifying, because you're afraid, because you know you're going to find things that you don't like, and you're not prepared to experience that because you don't have the ideas in place, or you've got wrong ideas in place that get in the way of being able to kind of courageously go through that. It would be like you're a contractor and your partner's a contractor, and you guys are trying to build a building, but the building keeps falling down. So you come to me, and I'm a consultant, and you say, help us figure out how to build this building. It keeps falling down. and I come and I start saying, well, use this concrete and use this kind of steel and dig the foundation this deep. Well, listen, if you're setting it on fire every night, if you're planting C4 explosives at the base of it all the time, it's going to be foolish for me to sit here and explain to you construction best practices. We have to address the fact that you're both terrorists first, and then we can work on construction competency. And a lot of people they're not really comfortable with that. But if you get comfortable with that and you start, facing that, all of a sudden, all the new vistas of change really open up for you.
Someone asks, what's the best way to release lots of emotions after a huge fight? Sit there and look at them. Sit there and observe the emotions. I mean, really, because, depending on...
Oh, you didn't mean sit there and look at your partner. Oh, I thought that's what you meant. That's funny.
Oh, I would sit with the, how to release them. I would observe, what's present in the wake of a fight. Is it anger? Is it guilt? Is it sadness? Is it disappointment? I would sit there and look at it, kind of like, instead of releasing or discharging or distracting, often how you're feeling after the whole thing goes down, these emotions you want to release, they're like the whole point of it. And so the more that you can kind of sit with and observe and see, there's a lot here. What is it? Because that is the time after the words have been said, after the, whatever went down. It's so we want to rush to release, and often to sit with and observe, am I looking for pity? Am I looking for reassurance? Am I looking for consolation? That was a huge thing. When I noticed that after we'd have it out and it would be like a whole big back and forth, and then, I'd realize things that I had done that I wasn't realizing all the way up until I realized it. And then, I'd have the feeling bad and and then, like you mentioned, this whole bad feeling for, I want you to see how bad I'm feeling so that you come and console me. That was a big part of the game for me that I always did. And so sitting with and paying attention to, what am I looking for in this moment? What do I, want from him, from me? Where, how do I want to distract myself, and kind of sitting with it is what I would do.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. And what I'll say is maybe a little different than that, but it's consistent with it. It's not exactly the same as it, but it's partly that, and it's also kind of I would sit with your partner and ask him or her or whatever, I'd say, who made us do this? Who makes us do this? Who makes us fight like this? Which is an interesting question. It kind of brings, because it's strange, because it doesn't really feel like you're compelled to do it. You have to do it. I don't want to do it. And you feel that way? You don't want it to happen? And yet, we don't have family nearby. Nobody lives with us. It's not, our dogs aren't making us do it. Our families live across the country. They're not what you would call sort of an active influence in our daily life. If you and I have a problem, it's our fault. At this stage, we're two reasonably intelligent adult people who live by ourselves and have the luxury to choose how we're going to conduct our business from one day to the next. And there would be instances where we would fight, and have a very unpleasant evening. And it would seem as though someone made us do it. But there's nobody else around. And sometimes really just acknowledging that. Who made, not who caused this? Is it me or is it you? Who makes us do this? Because we just did it again. Isn't that interesting? Kind of destigmatize it, right? But not in a sentimental way, in a matter-of-fact way. Who caused us to do this? This is a very interesting thing. And I think one of the other things is acknowledge we live in Tornado Alley right now. If you live in Kansas, tornadoes are going to come through. You live in Kansas, right? Say to your partner, and see if your partner will agree with this, we don't know how to be in a relationship without doing this. We are helpless. We are ignorant. We are incompetent. We don't know how to not do this. Would you agree? Say that to them. That's not coming down on yourself. It's a matter of fact. You did it. Now, I'm speaking. I'm not talking to you. I don't know you. I know nothing about it. I'm talking about like myself, my own personal experience. It's a matter. To say if you can't. By the way, if you can't say, "God, I'm incompetent," without feeling bad, that's a tremendous liability. That's a
Yes.
that needs to be a matter of fact realization. Did we just do this again? We did. I'm not competent. I don't know how to not fight with you. I don't know how to do it, right? Acknowledge that. It's make it emotionally safe and acknowledge the fact, and then you can then begin to do something about the fact. So we live in Tornado Alley, which means tornadoes are going to come through. At this stage of our relationship, we live in a place where these fights are going to happen. Stop trying to prevent the fights. Stop hoping that the fight won't happen again. You're going to fight again. You're going to fight again. I guarantee it, right? Watch it and observe it. Do something different emotionally. What do you normally do emotionally when the fight is over, especially? Feel terrible, feel despair, say, oh, that kind of that, I guess we're just, one of the things that's very interesting is that people think that they are smarter. They think that the version of them that does the post-game analysis is smarter than the version of them that behaves fiendishly when the fight is going on. Does that make sense? Because when you're in the fight, you're in the fight and you're doing what makes sense. But then when it's over, you kind of have this there's a saying, hindsight is 20/20, and there's a feeling that that's true. You go, okay, well, I'm seeing things clearly now. That's a mistake. You're not seeing things clearly now. It's not. You are not any smarter when you're feeling bad after the fight than you were when the fight was happening. Don't trust yourself in that position so much. Observe what's happening. Trust but verify. All of these different states of mind. Because when you were angry and having it out, and when you were persecuting your partner, or when you were being victimized by your partner and convincing yourself you deserved it, or whatever the specific dynamics were when you were doing what you do when the fights occur, that felt like the only thing to do. Didn't it feel like the right thing to be doing? It felt natural and all this stuff. And then after the fact, when you're looking back and you're going, oh, it happened again, oh no, or oh, I feel so guilty, or oh, I just feel hopeless, or I guess it just has to be this way. You trust those feelings. Those feelings are wrong, just like the feelings that you felt during the fight were wrong. They are a part of the disharmony process. Observe and watch. I don't know anything. Isn't this strange? Isn't this interesting? What happened just now? Oh, there's a feeling inside. I start sharing with your partner. If you want to, you say, there's a feeling inside. And this is this thing too. Become aware of what you would call, what would you call them? Okay, so a lot of people, when they talk about how they're feeling, they're talking about secondary or tertiary feelings. Now, what I mean by that is, if I just feel like you don't understand me, that's like a feeling that you report to your partner as like a volley. Well, I feel like you don't understand me, and then he's got to say something. I mean, you better have a reply to that, right? And it better be something that tells me that you do understand me, but doesn't tell me that I'm wrong for feeling like you don't understand me. You know what I'm talking about? That's a secondary. That's what we call that is a feeling made for export. I'm feeling that way so as to facilitate some kind of interpersonal dynamic here. I'm feeling that way to invite you to try to convince me it's not true, so that I can either get mad that you didn't try to console me, or get mad that you did try to console me and that you were gaslighting me and telling me that you do understand me when I can tell you don't. What's the primary feeling underneath it? And very often it's a feeling of, oh my God, I've got this. Oh, I've got this guilt. What am I going to do with this? Oh, I've got this feeling misunderstood. What a tragedy. And as you become more aware of those primary feelings that are intrapersonal, which is that you don't share those with other people, very often you don't even allow yourself to be aware of them. So many people get caught and they fetishize secondary and tertiary emotions, which are emotions that are what we call racket emotions. I'm feeling these things because feeling them confers me a payoff. I'm feeling these things because it gives me leverage over you. I'm feeling this because it is oil or lubrication in the gears of my interpersonal relations with other people, right? What's more primary to that? There's something inside that goes, oh, it's time to do this. Oh, there's a certain satisfaction that underlies this. Have you ever felt wronged, but then there's an awareness inside of you that goes, the fact that I feel so wrong. Have you ever felt very hurt by something that someone did, and something inside you recognized that the magnitude of that hurt constituted unquestionable leverage that you had over that other person? The fact that I am this hurt by what you did means that I am entitled to massive compensation for you. It's like those mesothelioma commercials. It's like, if you did this and this and this, you may be entitled to compensation. If you feel this amount of this kind of feeling, you are entitled to compensation from your partner. And it's like, and you go, oh, that's me. You know what I mean? And like, you're happy. It's like, I have those symptoms. I worked at that plant. Oh my gosh, I might have money. I have hurt. My feelings are hurt. Oh my God, that means I can put him through the ringer? Does that mean I get to get? Yeah, that's the primary feeling. That's the thing that a lot of people don't allow themselves to be aware of. Because if they allowed themselves to be aware of that, they would recognize how crooked they are. And they would recognize how complicit they are in everything, and they wouldn't be able to pretend like they were an innocent victim, which means they wouldn't be able to be a persecutor, which means they wouldn't be able to keep the game going. And so watch that. And so now, kind of circling back to this, tell your partner about how you're feeling in a way that isn't designed to extract concessions from him or her, right? You might say something like, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling like really usually if one person says to the other person, I'm feeling disrespected by you, what I'm saying is, I'm inviting you to apologize. I'm inviting you to change your behavior. I'm inviting you to console me. I'm inviting you to feel bad about the fact that I feel that way in connection to something that you did. In other words, it is game playing bullshit. It's politicking. It's leveraging, right? Versus, you know what, there's a feeling there, versus I'm a person and I'm interested in the fact that there's a feeling. And I'm going to tell the person that I'm with, hey, there's a feeling inside here that's going on. And it's, you know what, I'm feeling like disrespected by you. And I don't mean to suggest that it's your fault that I feel that way, or even that you did anything wrong. I'm just noticing that, and you can even watch it, that those feelings will occur often independent of what your partner does or doesn't do. But you can share it with them. Create an environment in which it is safe for one partner to share with the other partner, I'm feeling resentful of you right now. And I want you to know that I am not under any kind of belief that says that you're to blame for the fact that I'm feeling this resentment. I'm not telling you to prepare yourself for something down the road. I'm not asking you to fix the fact that I feel resentful. I'm not asking you to worry about the fact that I'm feeling resentful. I'm just reporting to you there's some resentment right now. And I'll tell you something. There's a nascent awareness in me that resentment is not legitimate. There's a nascent, and I'll tell you something else too. There's a part of me that seems to regard that resentment as something that's valuable. There's a part of me that is happy that I'm feeling resentful of you. There's a part of me that seems to be thinking that I could store this up and use it against you later, or cash it in for a concession from you later. Or maybe I can use this resentment to assuage a certain baseline guilt or inadequacy that I typically feel. So that's what's going on inside me right now, and I want you to know that I'm distinctly aware of the possibility it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with you. What are you feeling? And they can go, well, I'm feeling scared, you know. And so, yeah, you figure out how to do you know how to do that in your relationship? Can you tell your partner how you're feeling in a matter-of-fact way without wanting them to without there being an implicit instruction involved? I'm feeling this way. That's what you tell them. And then off the record, but clearly communicated as, and so you better get your shit together. You better be ready, or you better convince me not to feel. Is it possible to do that? And vice versa, can they communicate? Because if they can't, then you know we're in a little bit of difficulty there. We need to open up those lines of we need to open up legitimate lines of communication, and we need to sort of de-automatize sort of, you know, some of the reactions that we have to those. A lot of people have never honestly communicated how they were feeling in their entire life.
No.
They have never told another person about how they were feeling in a matter-of-fact way. It was always to get a stroke, to get accommodation, to intimidate that person, go out and commiserate with the girls, and they'll validate that feeling and go, yes, men are such pigs. Or go out with your guys and talk to them and say, oh yeah, all women are crazy and all this different stuff. Very rarely, think about it, can you think of a time in your life when you told somebody else about some way you were feeling in an effort to do something other than get some kind of response from them? And for a lot of people, they don't have a lot of experience in that, so it takes time to build it. But once you do, it becomes possible to start, basically, if you've got a bad feeling inside, it becomes possible for the two of us to go to work on the fact that feeling is there, rather than you using that feeling against me or something like that. So basically, the bad feelings can be pushed out, so you got two people here working on the fact that feeling's there, rather than the feeling being between us and being sort of a weapon I'm using against you, or something I'm trying to use as like a shield against things that you're going to try to do to me.
Yeah, and the key, though, is realizing you're doing any of this, because you probably have no idea you're doing it, and you probably never paid attention to I get to use this, or I get to take that, and I'm gonna take what you said or did. I'm gonna hurt my feelings, and I'm gonna hurt my feelings so bad that then you're really gonna owe me, and I'm really going to feel so owed by you because I took whatever you said or did or didn't do, and I hurt my feelings so bad with it. And if you've never seen yourself do that, like pick up the knife and harm yourself with something that someone you care about said or did so that you could get something, because you can't, you don't know how to go right for like the outcome, the love, the affection, the feedback that you're wanting, that the only way you can do it is through these weird, corrupt, really sick and evil games that you play, because it's what you observed growing up. And unless you've seen yourself do that and have been horrified, if you've never watched yourself do something like that and feel this sense of, now I've got you, or now I've got some kind of leverage, or now I get to use this. It takes a lot of, awareness and watching and honesty and willingness to see gross things about yourself in order to see that happening. And then to go, wow, no, he's got no chance. I'm playing some kind of weird unconscious game that I know I saw people play growing up, but I didn't realize it was a game. I thought that was life. I thought that was relationships. I thought that was marriage. I thought that was what people do to each other. Is I feel certain ways and I leverage those feelings over you, and you feel certain ways, and that's what drives that whole guilt machine. Is if I've done something that I feel like I've hurt you, it's like, oh, now it's my turn to pay. And so we're playing these games, and we're expecting payment. We're demanding payment from other people, and then we're paying our pound of flesh. And you can see that it's a really brutal, unsophisticated, it's just brutality. The pound of flesh game of like, ooh, I gotta, and it's emotionally wrenching, but again, we equate that with love. We equate that with romance. We equate that with, oh, it's so hard, but it's just so worth it.
That is all garbage, trash. It's all just absolute, just pablum. Excuse me.
I'm good. You go for
it. But like that. That is, here's something, just a little idea, just meditate on this, right? Am I in the market for feelings that I don't want to feel, right? I don't want to feel this way. That might be true, but you're in the market for it, which is to say that you recognize that feeling as a commodity, as something you've got a use for it, right? I wrote a couple of things down here. It's typically more comfortable for me to invent theories about what's wrong with my partner than it is for me to realize what's wrong with me. And that's
bingo.
And don't, and none of this stuff. Do not do this for your children, please don't do. If you really want to help your children, don't do this for your children, and don't do it for your partner, because if you start out on that foot, you're first. It's fruit of the poisonous tree. You're already going down a path of sickness. You're already doing it wrong. If you start going, I want to do this for my kids. I want to do this because I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better wife. Let me tell you something. Don't trust that part of you. That part of you that masquerades as a good, selfless part that just wants to. Don't trust that part. That part is probably one of the worst parts in you. And there's just this credulity where I believe my own propaganda. I just want to be a better. It's not true. It's not true. I want to be less miserable. When I'm really healthy and matter of fact, I want to be less miserable. I want to stop engaging in futility, right? That's what I want, because it's miserable for me. Now, when you've got two people who both acknowledge the fact that what they really want is they want to be less miserable. They want to be happy. They want to be peaceful. Or they want those things. Oftentimes they're not even able to want those things, but they do want it, right? They can start going to work on themselves. And they'll no longer use their partner as a distraction from working on themselves. Watch that too. If the basic objective is to create a happy relationship, we're lost. Because we got probably two sick people, right? Who should be first and foremost looking to purge themselves of sickness. But we got two sick people that want to build a building. We need two sick people who need to get well, and then they can build that building, right? If there are two people who are to one degree or another deranged, and they want to come together and make a plan, we have to iron out the individual derangement. right? If we got two gears and both of those gears are warped, and I got these two gears and they come to me and they say, Steve, what we want to do is we want to be able to go like this smoothly together. I go, okay, that's great. We can, what we need to do is separate them. And I don't mean even separate, but I just mean individually, we need to de-warp this gear and de-warp this gear, reshape them. And I'm talking about what goes on inside the mind and how the individual responds to what goes on inside the mind, and what assumptions are there that shouldn't be, and what assumptions aren't there that should be. Kind of revisiting something we mentioned before, why would a person be uncomfortable seeing something inside themselves that was kind of icky? Like, why would a person have a hard time noticing something transpiring inside them? Because they would take it personally. So in general, here's a big picture principle. What makes the truth uncomfortable? And it is my commitment to wrong ideas. If I'm committed to wrong ideas and then I encounter truth that contradicts those wrong ideas to which I'm committed, I feel uncomfortable. If I relinquish those wrong ideas, the truth isn't uncomfortable. I'll give you an example. There's an idea that goes, if there's something nasty going on inside my mind, that means I'm a terrible bad person. And if I'm a terrible bad person, that means I have to psychologically flagellate myself in the ways that I saw my parents or in the ways my parents taught me to do it. That's a wrong idea. So if I'm committed to that wrong idea and I encounter the truth, and the truth is there's some sick stuff that goes on in here. I am a victim. I'm a professional victim, right? I love it when I get my feelings hurt because it allows me to extract things from other people and emotionally extort them. If that's going on inside my head and I'm committed, and the truth is seeing that, right? Awareness reveals the truth to me. And the truth is, listen, I am complicit in everything I whine about and complain about and cry about. All of that stuff. I am complicit in it. I'm participating in it. That's just the truth. Awareness reveals that to me. Oh, it's painful. Why? Because I'm committed to an idea that's wrong, that says if that's going on inside my head, there's something terrible about me for which I must punish myself. See that? If I would relinquish that idea that goes, if you see certain things in yourself, you then must inflict these punishments. You then have to emotionally resist. You then have to feel these bad feelings. So sometimes I'm very unabashed in how I relay what I believe to be the truth to people. And they say, well, that's so harsh. Couldn't you just soften it? It's like, I am inviting people to learn how to not flagellate themselves when they encounter things that are true. The whole purpose is for you to learn how to not do that which you do in response to hearing something that's true that causes that truth to be painful to you, and that then gives you a psychological incentive to avoid encountering it again. Don't you see how much more useful it is to learn how to not hurt yourself with the truth than to have the truth presented to you in a way that makes it impossible for you to hurt yourself with it, to pad it and to sweeten it to such a degree that you can't even really feel it? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, be like that kid from, what is that, A Christmas Story, and you're just so thoroughly padded with clothing that no cold can get to you, but you also can't move at all. It's like a lot of people, they want the truth diluted to a point where they can hang on to their bad, wrong ideas about things. And they can keep their feelings hurt meter real high. I want to be so sensitive that I can get my feelings hurt in response to anything. And I want you to dilute the truth so much that I can have that tendency to hurt my feelings over nothing and hear the truth and still be comfortable. That's not really the best way to do it. We could just get in there and take those ideas out so that you can handle the 100-proof truth, which is just simply what you see, right? Now, think about how effortless and easy and painless profound changes will be for you when you let go of any ideas in your mind, right? Any ideas to which you're committed that cause encountering the unadulterated truth to be painful for you. Imagine if you can see yourself engaged in what we might call interpersonal depravity, conspiring to create disharmony in your relationship. You can see yourself doing that, and it's not something to feel bad about, and it's not something to boo-hoo-hoo about, and it's not something to do. It's just a matter of fact. I just caught myself engaged in a criminal act in my mind. I just caught myself hoping he would let me down so that I could cry. Or whatever. And just, do you have any idea how free and powerful you are when you can just see it and to go, isn't that interesting? And you could tell him, you go, listen, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe what I just saw myself planning to do to you. You want to hear about it? And he's going to go, well, I don't know, do I? And that when you get to that level, like, and what is it that allows you to do that? all you've got to do is let go of wrong ideas you have about yourself. I have an obligation to be other than I am at a given moment in time. Boy, if you would just let go of that commitment, you could see anything going on inside your mind that you need to see and not feel a single bad feeling. No guilt, no shame, no blame, no anxiety, no suffering. There'd be no emotional resistance of it. There'd be no, can I spin this? Can I make an excuse for this? Do I feel like I should have gotten over this already? Who cares if you feel like you should have gotten over this already? The fact is, it's happening in your head now. What are you more committed to? Your ideas about where you think you should be, or the reality that awareness reveals to you about where you actually are now? Which one's more important to you? You know, for a lot of people, what's more important to them is where they think they should be. Okay, that's a wrong idea, and you suffer over it. Let that idea go. Make it so that, what do I really want? Do I want to be a good person? Okay, fine. All right. What I want to be more acutely aware of what's true about me right now, right? I want to be more acutely aware of what is relevant and true about what's going on inside my mind right now. That's what I want. And if what's relevant and true about what's going on inside my mind is the nastiest thing I've ever seen myself think about anyone, if I see that, my main value is being fulfilled. I'm seeing what's relevantly true in my mind right now. I want to be better than I am. Suffering, delusion, self-deception, obfuscation, lying. You see, it's built right into it. If that's my value, I want to be better than I am. I want to be further along than I am. I want to be over these problems that I already have. I want that to be behind me. All of these things are just setting myself up for disappointment, for fear, for self-deception, for lying to myself and to other people. What I really want is I want to have a clearer picture of what's true for me now and where I want to go moving forward. That's what I want. Show me what's true. If I'm making a mistake right now, reveal it to me. Test this in your arguments with your partner. You're like 100% convinced you're right. You got them dead to rights. You and you did this and you said this and you da. Right? Now, if you in that moment, right, would you be happy to realize you had been wrong the whole time? Would that be a welcome realization? And for most people, the answer is no. Because when they feel that they're right in an argument, they use that rightness as an excuse to be so nasty that to find out that they in fact were not right, that they were wrong, that their partner was right, you have now built up all sorts of terrible things on top of a foundation that was just taken away. And that's a psychologically catastrophic thing to happen, right? And so one of the things that you can do is stop and ask, and it doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong in a given instance. It's, would I welcome the realization that I was off base and that in fact they were right? And if the answer is no, we want to examine what assumptions, what ideas go into making the realization that I've been wrong this whole time unwelcome or terrifying or disconcerting. We've had, haven't we had
that's
this?
why I'm laughing.
but haven't we had, though, a situation where I thought the facts were a certain way, and I was talking to you about them, and then at some point you said something, and I go, oh, wait a minute, is it like this? Mm-hmm. And it's just, oh, okay. And then it's just wonderful. And then you just move into this kind of new thing. And on the other hand, I think we've both been in situations where we've behaved in such a way that the realization that those behaviors weren't justified was sort of not welcome.
No, because, especially when you're, and that's the thing, is like being aware of like these secret desires to like let your partner have it. That's kind of this question here. Can you riff a little more on the draw towards finding or manufacturing issues, like being repelled by harmony? Yeah, like if you have a desire to like ream your partner out or like be really nasty, and we don't realize we have these desires, but when you're like, if you get a good feeling, if you can pay attention to the good feeling that you get when you're just like you said, I'm right and I have my whole case, and I have very vivid recollections of a couple of fights, I think back in Charlotte, when I was just like, I was so certain, I was so sure, and I had this attitude that I just felt, it felt good to be able to kind of unleash it. And then after the fact, when I kind of saw it in that after light of like, whoa, I was off base here and I was off base here, and it's like the most bitter pill to realize. It's like,
if what? It's a bitter pill if you're attached to ideas that are wrong.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I was
Right.
attached to the ideas that were wrong, and became, because depending on how attached I was to the ideas, that's what made it so difficult to acknowledge and to realize. And it was the whole thing. I just remember this one in particular was like a big, long 4-hour thing, and it was very, it was very bitter. I was very attached to ideas, and I was very attached to letting you have it. And so the whole thing was an absolute mess, and it's only when you're not attached to the idea, when you can be wrong, when you can acknowledge. Something in me felt really good to unleash all of that negativity, all that bad feeling, all of that like nastiness, all of that justified, righteous, like I really loved being in the victim persecutor. I was the persecutor. I loved being in that persecutor seat. For those moments I was in it, I was like, I was the star. I was getting something out of being the persecutor in those moments.
Right.
And here, oh no, how far I've fallen down back to, a victim of, all of my bad patterns, and I'm so sorry. I mean, it's just a mess. Like the relationships are tough because, again, these gears, the work we need to do on ourselves in order to really recognize and acknowledge all of the really dysfunctional and sick stuff that we do inside of our heads. But to come to it with that detached, I just need to learn. I want to learn about how to communicate with another human being. And so whatever I need to see in order to acknowledge those things, I'm willing to see it. Are you willing to see it? Most people, depending on their level of ability to, kind of see something really, potentially ugly within themselves, your willingness to do that is going to be your willingness to get better, or your willingness to make things actually work.
And what is that ability and willingness to see ugly things in themselves? What's it made out of? What's it limited by?
Ideas.
Attachment to wrong ideas. My willingness to see what's true about me, right, is determined by how attached I'm not to wrong ideas. And so you might say my willingness to let go of wrong ideas is the foundation of my willingness to face what is true. Because what I'm really afraid is the experience of seeing what's true. Because there's a certain experience that comes with seeing what's true while also attached to certain wrong ideas about myself. So if I got ideas about how I should be, or how I have ideas, I have a self-image about how I am. I'm a good person. I'm a nice lady, I'm a good wife, and I'm a good mother. I'm attached to those ideas. And then my awareness reveals to me a truth about what I'm doing right now, what's happening right now. And that truth contradicts those ideas to which I'm attached. I mean, it's like you can grab one power line. This is, my dad told me this. I never tested it, but I just kind of took his word for it. You can grab one power line and nothing happens. But if you grab one power line and then another one at the same time, electrocution, death, quite possibly, right? I can grab wrong ideas, and sometimes they don't hurt right away. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I can see myself being a bad person. I can see myself being rude or short or curt or looking for a problem or whatever. No problem. Now, let me tell you something. I grab that power line called I'm a good person, and I also grab onto awareness of myself doing something that contradicts that idea. I got a problem. Now, the question is, which am I going to let go of? Am I going to let go of the truth because it's disturbing to me to encounter the truth while clinging to wrong ideas about myself? Or am I going to let go of those wrong ideas so that I can grab the truth without there being that negative experiential consequence? Does that make sense? And so one of those things is, and very often the wrong idea to which I am clinging that causes encounters with the truth to be so painful is this idea that goes, I am obligated to be other than I am at a given moment in time. Okay? So if excuse me, like, I'm fucked. Like, if think about that. Can you imagine something that would do a better job of psychologically incentivizing the avoidance of important insights than a commitment to an idea that says you must be other than you are at a given moment in time? Because every time you see the reality of who you are right now, you're violating that idea, that obligation that you've committed yourself to. Let go of that obligation. And in general, start assuming it's probably worse than you think it is. You're probably worse than you think you are. And that's fine. Everybody gets their feelings hurt about this. I'm kind of like, please, let go of the wrong ideas that make that seem so scary and hurtful and mean. Get to a place where you have such confidence in your true self, which is just, everybody thinks that who they are is the experience that arises as a result of seeing what's true while clinging to wrong ideas. That suffering, that defensiveness, that scariness, that lack of safety, that anger, that whatever it is. Who you really are is just this objective, matter-of-fact observation of what's going on inside your head. It's not what's going on inside your head. It is the objective, matter-of-fact observation that goes, oh, it looks like I'm looking for a fight. That realization, that's you. Not what you're realizing. You are the realizer. You're the realization. You're not the... So if you realize, God, I'm kind of looking for an excuse to be mean to my kids, right? Now, if you think that you're the realization, right? You're the thing that you're realizing. Well, that's terrible. But if you just recognize you're the observer, you're the auditor, not the books. Let's put it that way. You are the auditor, not the books. If you're the auditor and you see a discrepancy in the books and you think you are the discrepancy, oh, well, I'm going to pretend like that's not there because that's too terrifying. But if you know you're the auditor, you go, oh, there's a discrepancy. I'm the auditor, there's the discrepancy. You don't have to identify with the awareness. You just refrain from falsely identifying with anything that the awareness reveals to you. Somebody said something like, I can't remember, this is all kind of coming from the question, which I appreciate. It was very good that whoever it was asked. Sorry, I can't really see the things, and so thanks for reading this. But someone said something to the effect of like, what's the deal with people having avoiding harmony? Why would people look for disharmony? Why would people look for a problem? And I'll sometimes use these examples, and they're kind of strange examples, but I think they kind of drive the point home. Have you ever been in a public situation where you had a desperate need to use the restroom, right? I've certainly been there at various points. People don't like to talk about this, but it's like probably everyone has experienced this at some point or other in their life. And I'm talking about like serious, we're not like I'm uncomfortable. We're like, we have a problem. In the next 45 seconds, I need to find a facility. Do you know what I'm saying? Where's the facility? It's just like a situation where like a dignified person would beg, you know what I'm saying? Like I realize it's not open to the public, but we need an exception, right? In a situation like that, how welcome is an available restroom in a situation like that? Is it not an absolute blessing? Is it the relief that you feel when you say, oh God, thank God I found one. Oh, there it is, it's not occupied. Oh, isn't that the most wonderful thing in the world, right? That's what it's like for some people, for most people, for virtually all people, to find an opportunity to have a fight or have a grievance. Because they're so sick, they have so much emotional mess in them, that to find an outlet for it, something that I can release this stuff into, here we are. Oh, an environment, a context where it's appropriate for me to release this thing that's been building up inside of me. Oh my God, it's exactly the same. It is literally exactly the same. That's what it is. You think that you want a perfect world? A perfect world is a city street with a bathroom nowhere in sight. And you with a desperate need to go 5 minutes ago. I just want peace and harmony. I want a perfect relationship. I want perfect children. I want the carpet cleaned right. I want all these different things. Are you kidding me?
This is so good.
You know what I'm saying? But like getting clear on that. When I say I want all this peace and harmony, it's like a person who has severe diarrhea saying, I want a street with no restrooms. It's not true. It isn't true. And see, this is one of those things. People are confused about what it is that they really actually want, right? And talk about self-estrangement. That's self-estrangement. Because here's the thing. I have ideas about who I am, right? And sometimes I'll say I want what I imagine the person who I imagine myself to be would want. So I'll claim to want what my ideas about myself. If those things were really me, then I would want certain things. And very often that's what I'll claim to want. I want perfect this and I want perfect that, right? So why would a person be averse to harmony? And I had a couple of things kind of written down here. Harmony, it affords us no excuse or opportunity to express those feelings that exist independently. So here's the thing. The interpersonal relationship is an environment in which I get to express feelings that occur within me independently of what's going on in the relationship and that would happen if I were by myself, and that would happen if I were with a completely different person. I could be with a partner that was the exact opposite of you. So instead of red hair, she could have whatever hair. Instead of long hair, short hair. Instead of being the tall, she'd be really tall. Instead of being, 5'4", she could be whatever, 4'5", whatever. Take all that stuff and turn it around, the exact opposite. I'd be having the exact same bad feelings with someone else that I'm having with her. Right? So the relationship is an environment in which I get to find an outlet for feelings that exist independently of what the details of that relationship are. And so if I have peace and harmony, it's not providing me the outlet that I need. It's making it harder for me to express it, right? So what's another reason I'd be repelled by harmony? It doesn't give me an outlet for bad feelings. Okay, here we go. Harmony between interpersonal harmony is a problem if I don't have intrapersonal harmony. If there is intrapersonal conflict, interpersonal harmony is an impediment to my ability to find an outlet for that intrapersonal conflict. So recognize that inside here there are bad feelings, and so if there's no opportunity to express but peace and harmony, I have nothing to complain about. I'm going to find something. I'm going to invent something. I'm going to hallucinate something. You ever ask somebody to do something and then get mad at them for doing it? Why'd you do that? I know why. Do you know? It's because peace is a problem, right? Peace is a problem for weapons manufacturers. Do you see what I'm saying? Peace is a problem for... Do you know how many wars have been started because a country needed to get out of an economic slump? A lot of people, they're bored. They create boredom inside, which is like a depression. It's a lot of people, they create like a depression, right? And how do they get out of it? By getting angry. How do they get angry? They have a problem with their partner. What's another problem? Why is harmony uncomfortable? It reveals ourselves to ourselves. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of peace and harmony in the relationship. I'm afraid of getting along with my partner because it reveals myself to myself, right? It's kind of like if you've ever sat in a really quiet waiting room and your stomach gurgles, or there's just kind of a loud sound somewhere digestively going on, right? It's sort of weird. And a lot of people have a problem not like constantly chit-chatting because they can't stand silence. Because if they're not chit-chatting constantly, they start hearing voices that are in their head. And they want to drown those voices out because those voices are so unpleasant, right? So peace and harmony is silent. I mean, just think about what the experience of peace and harmony is like. It's tranquil. It's quiet, right? Interpersonal peace and harmony, right? Now, if we have interpersonal peace and harmony, and inside my voice is my father talking about what a piece of shit I am, or how inadequate I am, or myself saying, oh, you should have done this and you should have done that. You should be different. You should be further along, and you should have, well, how about that? All this different stuff. Oh my God. Do you know what a blessing it is? It's like a wonder. It's like a sound machine. It helps me go to sleep. If I can start yelling back and forth with you like this verbally, and I can drown out the demonic voices in my head that are complete, then you know what it does? It helps me get into this wonderful just kind of unconsciousness. Let me slip into oblivion. Let me make some noise out here. Hey, what's going on? What's this? What's that? Jeremy, why didn't you pick up your Legos? You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I'm all this crap, and it's not. This is one of those things. It's depressing and demoralizing to live in a world in which the interactions are not actually about what they are ostensibly about, right? You're not telling me to clean my room because it's good for me to have my room clean, right? You're telling me to clean my room because it's a way for you to escape the bad thing that was going on inside of you before you started parenting me. Yeah, that's the reason that one parent can tell a child to clean the room and it's a perfectly nice thing, and another parent tells them to do it and it's very different. And the children very often will respond differently because they can tell. I mean, and I actually literally have like a personal experience with this, because one woman that I grew up around was a clean freak, right? And her obsessive and neurotic fixation on cleanliness was about control and escaping, this is what I think, right? Very unpleasant internal environment. And so I resented it, and I hated her, and I hated it. Put the dish here, and don't put the cup on the thing, and all these stupid. And in contrast to that, my grandmother, who was, she might even watch this, she was also very interested in cleanliness. And it made me feel so good. I loved it. I loved to visit her. I loved for her to tell me, put it here, not there, and if you wouldn't mind putting this here when you're done, and I'm going to do this and that. And it was so nice. And I always reflected on that. I said, well, why do I hate this woman for her fixation on cleanliness so much? And why do I love this cleanliness over here? And the clean sheets and the toothbrush and, the bathroom is so clean and lovely and all this different stuff. What's the difference here? And to this day, I use Murphy's wood soap because my grandmother used Murphy's wood soap. And I just love the smell of it. It makes me feel happy, And the difference was My grandmother was cleaning because cleanliness is nice. My grandmother wasn't escaping anything and unpleasant. She was cleaning for cleaning's sake. She wasn't cleaning to avoid something that was going on internally. So those are some reasons that the harmony thing. It's that, and that's that thing. Is my intrapersonal environment incompatible with interpersonal harmony? Right? Now, this is what we're doing diagnostics here. I'm a technician. So, when you call me, your computer's not working, and you talk to the technician, and he goes, okay, you push this button, does it do this? We're not looking for, there's something wrong with you. You just don't deserve it. You can't have it. We're figuring out what's going on. We're troubleshooting. We're shooting trouble. That's what we're doing. And so if your intrapersonal environment is incompatible with interpersonal harmony, every attempt that you make to establish interpersonal harmony is going to fail. And if it succeeds, you are going to blow it up, because interpersonal harmony is a problem to be solved. It's not something to be enjoyed. I have watched women, and it was just because, that just happened to be the way it was. I've watched women growing up conspire to escape the discomfort of interpersonal, familial, domestic harmony. It was a prison cell they had to get out of. It was too tranquil. They could not be there. They weren't escaping discord into harmony. They weren't escaping the war zone into peace. They were in the peaceful zone, and they said, I got to get back into the war zone, because something about what was going on inside them made the war zone more comfortable and made it's kind of funny, because one of the stories that I heard about one of these people was that when they were a baby, they would yell and scream and couldn't sleep until someone would turn on the vacuum cleaner, and the of the vacuum cleaner was somehow rather soothing, and she'd be able to go to sleep when she was a baby. They wore out engines or components in the vacuum cleaner, leaving it on all night long so this baby would sleep. And then I thought, God, that's exactly like what our life is like with her now, is that she needs that noise of the tension and the fight and the discord and all that stuff in order somehow or other to feel at peace. And so if that's you, that's something that's work withable. First thing you got to do, though, are you willing to acknowledge, I'm a sicko. I am a sicko who feels peaceful in conflict. I feel I know who I am in conflict. One of the things, too, why would a person run towards feeling aggrieved, right? Well, have you ever felt wronged? And have you ever felt as if you wronged someone, right? Which one do you rather feel? Which one feels better? Would you rather feel wronged, or would you rather feel that you've wronged me?
Ooh, I'd rather feel wronged.
Oh, because you're in the creditor position, not the debtor position. You're in the one-up position, not the one-down position. See, if you've been wronged, essentially here we are together. I wrong you, so I get one up on you, you get one down. But really, because that's a wrong thing to do, I get up on you like this, but I did it illegitimately. Because I did it illegitimately at a meta level, you're one up on me because you've got agreements against me. And for a lot of people, what they're doing is they're choosing between feeling guilty and bad about themselves or feeling angry about another person and something wrong that they did. And the person will always choose the thing that gives them leverage. If you've got two things that feel bad, having been wronged and having wronged someone, okay, if they both feel bad, well, what else do we have to consider? Well, which one gives me more leverage? Well, which one lets me extract secondary benefits? Well, what other thing, because I got two bad feelings. Okay, well, are there other advantages? Two things taste bad. One's going to help me get in shape. One's going to make me fat. Which one am I going to take? Well, the one that makes me get in shape. You know what I'm saying? Two things, they're both going to make me fat. Okay, well, which one's going to taste good? Okay, well, I'm going to take the one that tastes good, the one that gives me some kind of an advantage. And so that's one of the other reasons that people would look for problems.
Food doesn't make you fat, though.
You know what I'm talking about? Let me use the model.
You
This
can
is
use
you
it.
talking about
use it.
you're talking about the
fine.
Super Bowl and all this different stuff.
I just had to put that in.
I know, it's okay.
That was
concessions. Concessions.
That was a great question, the harmony one, and recognizing your reasons for disliking harmony and why would I? Really ask yourself, why would I love disharmony? What's going on with that? Study yourself, observe, watch. Those points were really, really good to piece apart why am I relieved at this? Actually, it came up in one of our recent classes of awareness school. Someone shared an experience where, she's kind of realizing, I think I did all of that so that I could have an outburst. And that the whole planning of a whole big event was so I could have a big blow up. because like if there is some kind of catharsis that comes when you get to be wronged and you get to be in the right and you get to have a tantrum and you get to, kind of blow up in some way, because again, you've got so much suppressed stuff going on behind the scenes, so much intrapersonal disharmony that it's just like, I really need an outlet. It's like, oh yes, the bathroom example, as it is perfect. It really is. And when you can actually start seeing that, like what's bubbling up in me, because everything you're doing, and this is kind of getting back to that whole, it's coming from me, it's bubbling up within me, and it's coming out of me. What am I cooking up for my partner? Like all day long when your partner's off doing whatever your partner's doing and you guys come together at some point, it's like, are you cooking up a nice, lovely meal of harmony to share together? Or are you suppressing and composting a bunch of like nastiness that needs to be spewed out at some point? And so what you do inside your head all day long with regard to your partner is extremely important. That kind of gets me back to, awareness school, paying attention, seeing what's going on the inside, because and this is what everything that we teach and like our, relationship classes. Yes, we talk about, how to talk to one another, but really it's about the intrapersonal stuff. It's like, it's getting this right so that this has a chance, because most interpersonal relationships just don't have a chance because there's just not enough work being done on the intra, on what's going on with me, on how I'm thinking, feeling, believing, what I'm valuing, how I'm going about doing it. I just am not aware enough of my own stuff to have a hope for this to go well.
Yeah. So, something people won't like. There's nothing wrong with the relationship. There's something wrong with you. The relationship is functioning exactly like it is supposed to. It is creating exactly the amount of conflict that the individuals in the relationship are in the market for. Everybody wants to blame the machine because the machine is kicking out crap. Well, hang on a second. The designers of the machine, what are they in the market for? Crap. They're in the market for crap, so they build a crap machine. And that's exactly what they're getting. And then they bring that machine to somebody else and say, fix this machine, they're kicking out crap. And the person goes, well, it appears as if it's designed to kick out crap. And then even if modifications to the machine are made, the people take it home and they immediately modify it back so that it kicks out crap again. There's nothing wrong with my relationship. There is something wrong with me. And there's probably something wrong with that other person too, right? And assume that the relationship, we need to fight for the relationship. We need to fix our relationship. You need to fix you. You need to fix you. There is something wrong with you. You sit and say, what if I love this? What if I love everything I can see? And now listen, I'm not saying affirm this, acquiesce to this as a belief. I'm not saying that. I'm saying think about it. Have you ever considered it? Most people, one of the most wonderful things I've ever done for myself, every bad feeling that I could whine about, complain about, cry about, try to change, try to get myself out of, I ask myself, what if I love this? I feel like you just conspire to ruin my good days. I feel like you just conspire to ruin my momentum when I'm building it up. There's a feeling that comes with that, right? There's a distinct kind of feeling. Poor me, doesn't matter what I do, everybody's against me. And I let go of the ideas and the beliefs and the story and all that stuff and focus right on that feeling and go, what if I absolutely live for this feeling? What if I love it? Do I love this? Do I love this feeling that goes, well, I want to make it better, but he doesn't really seem to be interested in changing anything. Well, I'd love to do it. I'm trying and all this, but there's a feeling there that goes with that. Just notice that feeling and just add. And look, I'm not telling you that you love it. I'm saying it might be a useful exercise to kind of be very aware of that feeling. Sometimes if you're in a swimming pool, it's hard to be aware of the swimming pool because you're immersed in it. Get out of the feeling, but don't leave it. Get out of the pool, stand next to it, look at it, and say, do I love this? Do I love it? Do it get out of the feeling. Look at it and say, do I love this? Do I like swimming in this? Is this my favorite place to sort of baste? Sort of like I baste myself in this feeling like a turkey. You know what I'm saying? Like get out and look at it and say, do I love to float around in this? And sometimes the answer is yes. Now, I got to tell you ahead of time, it is modifiable, right? And so it's not everything that you could realize about yourself is changeable. And so you have to know that beforehand, because if you don't, you won't be willing to sincerely ask yourself these questions because you'll be afraid the answer is yes. This is another thing too. Any question that you ask yourself, if you're afraid of what the answer might be, you're not prepared to honestly ask and answer that question. I'm telling you, if you're afraid, and and there's nothing you can do about it. Do I sometimes wish I didn't have children? You know what I'm saying? Do I sometimes wish I hadn't married this person? If you're afraid of what the answer to those things might be, you're not prepared to ask yourself that question. And if you think that being able to ask yourself that question is probably important, then you want to focus in on what would it take for me to not be afraid of what the answer to that question might be. What would it take for me to be equally open to either answer that could come? And usually it's basic things like a lack of certainty about what I think it will mean if the answer is yes, if the answer is no. Right? Sometimes it's an awareness of positive possibility. Like the fact that I feel this way now doesn't mean that I have to be miserable forever. It doesn't mean, sometimes it's an acknowledgement. Sometimes it's just the ability, the courage to face the feeling is the thing that kind of lets you start moving forward from that feeling. Like to have the freedom to go, some of the times I kind of wish my life was completely different than it was. Do you have any idea how much pressure that's going to relieve from the pressure cooker and how it's going to open you up to be able to have fun in the life that you're living right now? And, maybe change it if you want to. It's not that you can't do that, but people are, I'm talking about, people are so afraid to ask themselves these powerful questions because they think they won't be able to handle what the answer is.
Yeah.
And why? Why does a person think they won't be able to handle what the answer to an important question might be? Because they're attached to ideas about themselves and what they can't do. Attachment to wrong ideas. That's the whole thing, which is what makes the truth uncomfortable. Attached to wrong ideas, right? What is it? I'm not allowed to get a divorce. I have to stay with this person forever. This person will never be different than they are. The fact that I've had the experience that I have up until this point is because of this person. Those are all wrong. Every single one of those things are wrong. You don't have to stay with them. You don't have to divorce them. They're not the reason that you've been as unhappy as you have been up until this point. None of it's true. And when you let go of all of those wrong ideas, then you can just start interacting with the truth. And you become incredibly powerful and extremely flexible when you do that. So that's kind of what our relationship coaching is about. And then you do get to a point. Here's a little question kind of riffing on kind of the bathroom stuff that you can ask yourself. So, is my relationship a kitchen or a toilet? Right? Do I create lovely ingredients inside myself and happiness that I get together with my fellow chef and cook up something nice? Or is my relationship a place where I sort of just dump out all of the unpleasantness that the sickness inside causes me to create? You can use it in different ways. I mean, you really can. A lot of people... Now, just to be clear about something. Sometimes I'll feel grumpy. And I'll just say to Melissa, I'm just feeling kind of grumpy. And I'll tell her that. Now, I don't consider that using the relationship as a toilet. Sometimes you just feel kind of pitiful, or you feel kind of low energy, or you just kind of like, maybe hurt yourself, or something a little disappointing happened, and you'll come to me and you'll say, just say, not mope and whine and all this and hope I'll notice, but come forward and say, I'm feeling kind of whiny right now. Will you console me? You can even say, will you coddle me? And very often your partner will go, well, sure, I'll coddle you a little bit. And it's a perfectly lovely thing to do. It's a very honest thing, but it's about that. And there's a certain kind of especially evil person who will do what I call an opportunistically uncharitable misinterpretation of what we're talking about here.
Oh, you just gave away one of the things we'll go deep on next week.
I guess nobody's going to want to take the class now.
No, that's going to be one of them, though. We'll go deep on that one.
Well, somebody's probably doing it right now. And there are different degrees. Like third degree opportunist. Is third degree the worst, or I can never remember? First degree murder. That's the word.
Worst,
so first degree opportunistically uncharitable misinterpreter will make a nasty comment that goes, well, I think it's wonderful that people in a relationship can share their bad feeling. Yeah, it is. And that's not what we're talking about. And it's obvious that that's not what we're talking about. And you knew that, but you just wanted to make the comment, right? So there's that kind of a person. But there's another type that's maybe like a third degree player who would never comment that, and who maybe gets that what we're talking about here is true, but they feel it inside. It would wrestle in them and it'd create a bad feeling. They wouldn't introduce it into the interpersonal interaction, but the resistance might be there inside their mind. Observe that and notice it if it's there. And go, what is that? Why is that? Why is that going on in there? Why? Because it's not a bad thing for me. It's not negatively affecting me. It's causing you to feel a little discomfort as you're encountering information that would otherwise be very pleasant for you. So it's observing stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. And it's just, the more you're prepared to see, the more you will see. And the more you see, the more you know. And the more you know, the more equipped you are to deal effectively, resourcefully with what's going on. And then your relationship starts to become fun. That's, because you're operating on more information. And that's that thing. I want to want peace, and I want to want happiness. Stop telling yourself that you want these things if you actually aren't sure. Like, I don't know if I really want those things. Would you want them? Well, yeah, it would be nice to want decent things. What a wonderful thing to want decent things. I'm not there. I don't think. I suspect perhaps I'm not. I mean, results suggest that I'm not, and I've seen certain things in myself that make me wonder. But I do want those things, and you can. That's a perfectly fine starting point.
Yeah. So this was a very fun chat. Thank you guys for joining us. Next Thursday, the 22nd, we are doing the relationship class. So if you like this, you'll love the class. You can come by yourself or ideally with your partner and, come on camera together and ask questions, and, we can help to unpack a lot of these ideas that we talked about tonight in more detail. And I think, is there anything else going on fun?
I don't know. I mean, we're in school in about 6 weeks.
Yep, we've got awareness school coming up again.
First, maybe 7 or 8 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, and if you need support, coaching, we have that available as well. And have a great night. See you later.
Thanks. See you.